Johnny Samp and Carter Decker back on the live wires here and ready to go here on YouTube and streaming on Spotify as well. But we got plenty to talk about today, Carter. A lot going on this weekend, a lot of interesting topics to talk about within the Packers organization and a lot others of organizations as well. We did get the win, not necessarily the win we kind of wanted. I think there's a lot of questions as to what we were doing there, like why we were playing so far down. It felt like, we'll talk all about that, why it felt like it had to be a close game. You kind of called it too from last week's video, talking about how the Packers are going to make it a close game and they're going to make it tight, and they certainly did. So I wasn't really even celebrating this win. I felt like we more escaped it again. I mean, I hate when we have the escape games, like, oh, we just got out of there lucky.
Right.
And today this past weekend may have been a little bit of luck on our side, but I also think we set ourselves up for that situation. Obviously, we'll talk about Bisaccia had an idea with that last play there, and he had that all pre-planned essentially, according to a lot of reports within the Packers and within ESPN as well. But once again, we're going to get started right here with the Packers-Bears. And the Packers take down the Bears. Once again, continuing the ownership, winning 20-19. Not necessarily an owning game. I was hoping for a statement game. But initially, what were your thoughts, Carter? What were your thoughts on this one?
Oh man, I couldn't agree with you more. We felt like we just escaped with the win. Feels like we really played down to their level. Honestly, if I'm going to be completely transparent, it seems like they really played up. They put out a fairly amazing game. Now, we didn't play good at all. Either side of the ball, I don't think we played phenomenal. Jordan Love, obviously makes his mistakes, but he was able to keep us in it. Our defense, unfortunately, seemed like it was getting ran through. It was kind of hard to watch. I'll be honest. It was hard to keep in it, and I was actually driving home at the time. Well, I wasn't driving, but I was sitting there watching the game on the way home from my family, and oh man, I was just stressing out. Every time the ball snapped, I was like, this might be where they just take it away. But like I said, we came out with the win, and at the end of the day, we own them still 11-0 in the last few games. So I'm very excited that that we took the win, and we're gonna go up in the standings a little bit and push them down. But I'm not happy with it. I'll say
No.
that. It's not like it was a win that I was excited about. I wasn't cheering or celebrating during the win. As a matter of fact, I was quite silent when we blocked the punt, or excuse me, the field goal. And I was like, well, we didn't win because we were good. We won because the Bears are the Bears, and they just happened to make that fatal error, which it seems like they always do. So we relied solely on the Bears making errors, and unfortunately, that's how we won. But again, win's a win, so I can't be too mad about it.
Without a doubt, you got to take them when you can get them, and especially in divisional matchups, those are always important to get. Carter, now we talk about it a little bit. The Packers struggle on offense in that first half, only putting up 10 points, or excuse me, 7, and then actually being behind at halftime, 10-7, going into the half, which is kind of concerning, just because I think we need those points in the beginning of the game. Obviously, there's opportunities. They were missed. Jordan Love had an interception on basically the third drive or whatever, and his second drive right on the end zone, and threw one right into the hands of it was skied over Tucker Kraft, I believe it was, and just out of reach. So it was just a bad throw. Not necessarily going to blame the coverage on that. I'm going to blame Jordan Love on that throwing arm angle. Really not a good look there, but we came out with a win. Again, there's a lot of criticism here, but we did come out with a win. I know I sound a little depressing this morning, today. We're actually recording at night. But it wasn't a real enthusiastic win. I was like, yeah, we got the win, but at what cost? Like, what did it seem like? We looked really bad all game. Once again, just continuing to do dumb things. And I think part of that's just, we just have to have a game. We just have to have a game where everything clicks at this point and everything works our way. But we did come out with a win nonetheless. I'm a lot happier than a lot of Bears fans right now. They're obviously calling for a lot of ref reviews. Not that it's going to make a difference.
Yes.
They're really upset about that. But they also got away with a few with DeAndre Swift. I think that was actually the beginning of the drive and the blatant false start that was never called, which could have deflated the whole drive in itself. He did move his leg, his hand. He looked confused, and then he got pitched the ball. And yeah, he kind of Kind of like when you're looking into the doorway or whatever, like into a door, like, oh,
Right.
is he out there? Yep. Oh, yep, it's coming to me. Yep.
And
So
then he's like,
that's
"Oh gosh," and it was right here in his chest.
so we'll run through some stats real quick. Love 13 to 17, 261 yards, one touchdown, one interception. Williams on the other side, 23 to 31, 231 yards. Jacobs had 18 carries, 76 yards, one TD. Swift had 14 carries, 71 yards, and one TD. Now, the big guy in this game was Christian Watson. He had a big game.
Huge.
4 catches, 150 yards, Mr. Carter. That was a big game for the wide receiver. Made some big plays on that last drive for the Packers, too, and really helped get us to that winning stage. And then Odunze on the other side, 6 catches, 65 yards. Really, I mean, really for a team that only has wide receiver twos, apparently, by the Bears, a lot of Bears fans and organization, we kind of kicked their butts in the wide receiver column this week. I mean, Odunze was the best one with 65 yards, no scores. And Christian Watson put up 150. And I think we had another one, maybe, a couple guys. I mean, I think our closest. The other thing I have a question on, Jaden Reed was working well in the beginning of the game. Why did we stop going to him?
I don't know because I thought the same thing. And again, I've said it week after week. I'm for some of the cutesy stuff with getting him out there in space and whatnot. However, in the past, we've seen that we've tried those cutesy things and gotten away with a few of them, and then the fourth or fifth one we try, it gets stuck and we lose 6 or 7 yards and we kill the drive. So I'm actually not too upset with the fact that we went away from it. Now, do I think we shouldn't have got him the ball? Absolutely not. We definitely had to get the ball in his hands, and he was doing well. Um, my problem is we just really couldn't get the ball downfield. It seemed like we were trying so hard to just go. We were forgetting that we can just dink and dunk on this team and maybe get some few easy passes. It seemed like every pass Jordan made had an extreme level of difficulty, other than obviously some of the small ones that, like you said to Jalen Reed and that kind of stuff. But it seemed like every other pass that he was throwing, just it was a very difficult pass. And actually coming back to the interception that you were talking about, it was just a bad pass. And we don't see a ton of bad passes come from Jordan. Usually they're fairly safe, or somehow we get lucky. Christian Watson comes down with it into double coverage. Um, but Jaden Reed just didn't. Once we hit those few, swing passes, he didn't really have too much of an effect on the game. Now, what I will say he did was his blocking, and that's something I'm very impressed with because he's not the biggest guy on the field.
No.
He's not as tall as Christian Watson. He's not as bulky as Josh Jacobs or anything like that. He's a smaller stature guy. He's a slot receiver, and that's what he's built for. But man, when he came down and made that huge block for Josh Jacobs, oh, that was amazing to see. So I think that's where we were just kind of messing up. We weren't really getting the ball downfield, but our receivers and everyone was playing the game, and they were doing their best to get our whoever got the ball downfield. So I'm kind of upset we didn't get him the ball more. I'm kind of upset Romeo didn't touch the ball more. I mean, he had that one catch in the first drive that was awesome, wide open. Love rolled out to the right side and had a nice pass. That was it. And Dontavian Wicks didn't get anything. Tucker Kraft didn't touch the ball. Josh Jacobs was our second receiver at 58 yards on 4 catches, and then Jaden Reed's right after him with only 2 for 23. So seems like we weren't really passing the ball quite well. Um, and obviously, if we're not passing the ball well, then our slot receivers aren't going to feast because he's not getting the ball out in those little routes he's trying to throw him deep balls. So I'm not quite sure what happened or why we got into the role that we did. I'll blame the Bears defense for that. It seems like they actually played pretty up past their standards and they were pretty successful. But I would like to see us distribute that ball a little bit more. I mean, 13 for 17 isn't a good game by any stretch of the imagination for Jordan. However, when you take all the other factors out and you look at Christian Watson for 4 for 150, and that's the majority of Jordan's throws, I'm pretty impressed with Christian, and I'm glad he had this game because he really needed it. It seemed like we kept putting him on the back burner and just getting him one or two balls a game. This was a game that he needed to really show his stuff. And the last thing I'll say about him is he showed in the past that he's not always the jump ball, go get, he's got the stature for it, but he doesn't always do it when he's out there. And it seemed like today he was doing nothing but that. He wanted that ball. He was hungry. He was going to catch anything that came to him. 4 for 4 is not, that's perfect. So I'm pretty impressed with how he played today, or excuse me, the other day. And I'm glad that he had a pop out game because he really needed it, and we needed to put the league on notice that we do have a guy that's a deep threat, and he's going to get out there and go down there. It's not just the Jaden Reed show. So I think that was a positive, but obviously no one else really touching the ball. It's a pretty big negative.
Yeah, and I totally agree on the big chunk plays. Seemed like we really couldn't have those. Like I was talking about last week, Tom Brady kind of drives, just popping and picking apart the defense. Now I did send you a video here, and it was of that Tucker Craft play. It was actually that big Christian Watson play. Tucker Craft was wide open. He probably had 25 yards ahead of him, and it really would have been a nice safe pass. But I mean, unfortunately, it worked out. But he was thrown in double coverage again, which wasn't ideal. And Tucker Craft basically hit the flat, and he was just wide open, had a lot of running room. And I really think, obviously, if he gets with a head full of steam, big guy like him, he's going to run you over, and he's going to be tough to bring down. So I think that probably would have led to a similar situation. I'm glad Christian Watson did catch it, and we didn't have to talk about, what he missed there. But I do want to just point that out because I noticed that during the game and some of the highlights coming back from the Twitter media and that sort of thing, and talking about all those like missed opportunities, I would say, but not necessarily opportunities, just other opportunities available to Jordan Love that maybe would have made the game a little bit less stressful, a little bit off the edge of your seat. I just want a game, Carter, here that I can sit back and relax and watch the TV. Now I'm fine if I'm at the game because I'm already going to be, pumped up and ready to go. But when you're at home
Right.
with the family or something and you get all stressed out, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's embarrassing. But would like one of those games.
Yeah, and kind of back to your point, I definitely want one of those games, and it seems like we
No,
just
we
don't do
we
it this
make it
year.
hard
This
on
year
ourselves.
yeah, and exactly, Jordan didn't need to make that pass to Christian. Again, like I said, really glad that he caught it. That ended up being a huge play for us, and it definitely helped us get where we were. Um, but you're right, like why did we have to make that, hard pass when we had an open receiver in the flat that's just a simple dump route? And he's not on, and he doesn't even have to be on the run for that. He could have slowed down and tossed it to him. He didn't have to make it as difficult as it was. Now, am I impressed that he made the play, doing what he did, rolling out to his right
Well,
on the
yeah,
run? It's awesome to see. However,
yeah,
you
you
throw
would
it
be a
into
fool
double
not to
coverage,
appreciate it.
right? Any other quarterback in this league would probably get ripped apart for doing it, and chances are that the receiver probably wouldn't catch it. But again, that's just the Packer luck. We end up with some of the good things, and I don't even know how to feel about it because I want him to make smart passes and I want him to be the quarterback that we need in the terms of like, making the smart play, making the easy play, making it easy on himself so we can survive and play for another day. Um, but when I see him, yeet it downfield like that, I'll hold my breath and I'm like, oh, please come down with this. And you know what? It worked out. So can't complain too much, but yeah, we definitely feel like we're making these games a lot harder than we need to. It feels like we're, going down to the team standards that we're playing.
Oh yeah, easily.
And then when we play a good team like the Lions, it seems like we're not playing up to the standards of the teams that are better than us. It almost felt like when they walked in that stadium, they were expecting a win, which I also can understand. I mean, it's the Bears and we beat them, kind of
It's
out
a
of the
pretty
last
miserable
times.
franchise.
So it's like, okay, yeah, we should come out with the win, but just like every other team, you got to give them the respect because it's the NFL. They got dogs, and clearly it showed. Um, they just came up 1 point short, and that sucks to be a bear. But guess what? We won. So
Yeah, that's basically the round robin there of what I would guess. I would say I was kind of thinking, yes, we make things more difficult than we have to. Now, I am so craving that game where I can just sit back, relax, we're up by like 21, nothing to worry about. Just sit there, just watch the rest of it. It's like late third quarter, early fourth. I'm still going to be a little nervous if I see some drives start to accumulate for the other team. I always do get nervous. I'm always going to be that guy, and I'm always going to be over dramatic about it as well. I always thought about it. People back in the 1600s, they didn't have football like this like we have, but they had plays and stuff which caused a lot of drama in their life. So that's why they went to the big plays and shows. And back in those days, I think that's if they had football, they would just go nuts, just with competitiveness. You see the colonists versus the British play football. Oh, that would be a good matchup. But I'm pretty sure because it gets me on the edge of the seat every week. It's like we have this team, we have all this talent, and we have this I would say, a still underrated talent that teams simply aren't respecting, and we're just not utilizing it well. I think with Jaden Reed, um, yes, he did have a really good start. I think he could have been utilized more throughout the game. I don't think he had to drop off like that. I think he only had like I I don't even know how many catches, maybe two or three, but it wasn't much.
Ooh.
Two. Okay. And so I really think we got to be more sustainable and not just give up on guys. I also think like guys like Tucker Kraft, especially against that defense, he would have been a great tool to utilize. I don't necessarily like the deep balls against that defense. You got guys like Jalen Johnson back there. You got guys that are ball hawks, and they're going to be looking for those up in the air balls. Now, given Christian Watson is 6'4", am I right there? So he does have a little bit more size than Jalen Johnson and the other guys, but make the safe play. Make the safe play. Just get the first down. Tom Brady was the king of that. He would dump it off. He would be the first one to dump it off. He didn't see anything. He's going to dump it off. He's not going to throw it downfield. He's going to throw it to the check down in. But I do love the mentality of the gambling. I have to say, I mean, it just gets you going. It makes the game exciting, and it really makes things fun. But it's also like when you throw a pick, it's like, oh my gosh, and it's just
Right.
like, yeah, you're just hitting your head. Now, did you see the video here? And we're transitioning a little bit of Josh Jacobs running and antagonizing Jalen Johnson. Yeah, giving him the hand. I
Yeah.
love that video. I
Yes.
love that.
I've seen it. It's been plastered across my timeline, and just gives me the chills watching it because he called it out before the game that he wants to go and hit people, and he wants people to feel the hit that he delivers. And getting out there in space after breaking a tackle and just staring the corner down and having the audacity to be like, all right, come on, let's get it. You and me one on one. We're going to do this right now. And he just leveled them. Oh, now could the hit have been a little bit harder if he would have
Oh
got a
yeah,
little lower? Sure, but still, he wasn't the one that ended up on his butt. So yeah, I've seen it so many times, and I keep rewatching it because it's just like, all right, that's the mentality we need. We're gonna go out, we're gonna run you over. You're not gonna come hit me. I'm gonna go hit you. So I was really impressed by that, and that kind of encapsulates what I think the team ended up relying on. We didn't have the big passes, or I mean, we had a few obviously, but not everyone had the big passes. Like I said, Jaden Reed went out there and put his body on the line on a linebacker and laid him out, obviously within the confines of the rules. And Dobbs was out there blocking his tail off, and that's the kind of mentality that I really appreciate. Coming from my school, that is, I did a lot of blocking. Obviously, I caught the ball a few times, but blocking was one of the main things that I had to do when we were getting out there in space. And I don't mind blocking because there's nothing better than just establishing your dominance over the opposing player, especially when you go out there every single play and line up against him. When you can see it in his face that he knows you're out there dominating him, whether you're getting the ball a ton or not, he knows. And then when you do get your opportunity, it's going to be that much sweeter when you make that catch or you make that first down or you make that cut and you put them on skates. So I
I'm pretty
really
good on
like that, and
skates.
nice. I'm bad on skates. I'll be honest. I gotta say on flat feet, but I was very impressed, and obviously that clip is gonna be probably on my timeline for the rest of the year, and I'm gonna keep liking it every time it pops up.
And a few other things we have. Let's talk a little bit defensively. Defensively, we did not look great. Now, I'm not going to harp the defense because they've looked good a lot of times and they bailed us out a lot of times. And they are, I really think, a solid unit. I just think they have a few correctional issues that they have to fix up. One of them being Quay Walker. He had an opportunity, and there's a video of it as well, to shoot the gap, and he had a clear line at Caleb, and he simply stops and lets Caleb go around him, complete the pass, and I can't remember what it resulted in right
It
off
was
the
on
top.
fourth down too.
Yeah, it
Fourth
was a really
down,
good
fourth and
opportunity,
two.
busted it wide open, and just nothing happening there for Mr. Walker. But I would like to see that kind of. I don't know if that's decision making. If I think he just kind of got panicked that he didn't have any contact in front of him. But you got to be making that play. What was your thoughts kind of on that and kind of on the defense overall, just for a little bit, and then we'll talk about Keyshawn Nixon, who's been a mess all season as well.
I know you said you weren't going to harp on them, so let me take the reins. I'm going to harp on them because you are right. They have bailed us out a bunch of times, and they've been playing some really, really good games in the past. But this has been a game where they really got exposed. And I don't know if it was more play calling or Jeff Hafley, making some decisions to play off the ball. But I'll give you three things that I really saw that really just hurt us. One, tackling. it seemed like every time we touched one of the people that had the ball, we could not get him down with the first two or three players. We had to get the fourth or fifth player on there to finally get him down. On that big run by DeAndre Swift, he got hit two or three times and no one could get him down. That play where DJ Moore caught it on a small screen and ended up getting down to like the 5 yard line right before the half. He got touched so many times and he squeezed into a space this small, which I'll give him credit for. Good play. We had a lot of opportunities to tackle him and we just missed. Second thing I'm going to say is we played really far off the ball,
We certainly
meaning
did.
not like our D line that is, but like all of our linebackers, all of our corners, our safeties. It looked like we were a little nervous and we were playing like prevent defense, trying to prevent this big long ball, which Caleb really hasn't had all year. And what did he do? He tore us apart underneath. He kept, dinking and dunking. He kept hitting his crossing routes. He kept leveling it out to the flat. And he was making really, really good decisions for the majority of the game. And then that last drive, we didn't even touch the players. We were letting them catch with five
Oh
yards
yeah,
of space on either
we
side
couldn't
of
do
them.
jack.
It just seemed horrible. And the third thing I'll say um, is getting off blocks. All of those plays I just mentioned, there was some good, really, really good blocking by the Bears. However, we've been notorious for getting off those blocks and making huge plays. We could not get off of a block, and maybe they just had some sticky on their hands, or maybe they were holding extra long. I didn't really think so, but maybe they were. And it just seemed like every time we were going, coming downfield to make a tackle, we are making the wrong decision, as in we're running into a player or we're cutting inside when our job is to keep the outside for, or excuse me,
Set the
to keep
edge.
contained,
Yeah.
right, and set the edge. It seemed like we were playing. I don't want to say scared because we still make great plays, and that's not what the Packers defense is. But it seemed like we were playing timid. Like we thought, Caleb Williams would go out there and throw 350 yards on us and just air it out, which I wouldn't do that against us when we got Xavier back there, we got Evan Williams back there. Ja was out, after the first quarter, but we have a
He's
really
been
good secondary.
painful.
Yeah, he obviously had a ton of, you know, health issues to keep staying on the field, and it's not a good look. But it just seems like we weren't really playing Packer defense. And again, I don't know if that's play calling or if that was in the game plan beforehand to kind of give them some space. And one extra thing I'll actually add, and I'll be done after that.
No, you're
Um,
good.
we didn't we let Caleb Williams run all over us. Let's see what the stats are. 9 for 70 yards, averaging 7.8 yards.
It's a good
That is
point.
crazy. He had 9 rushing attempts and gained 70 yards. That is horrible that we let that through. And every time he ran, we didn't have a spy or anything. And I felt like after the fourth run where he made four big runs. Every time he ran the ball was a big run, whether it's for a first down or a good chunk of yards. After the fourth one, we should have put a spy out there. And I'm not saying a spy to solely stare at him because he didn't break out of the pocket every time, but we didn't have any protection against that, and it seemed like we didn't even plan for him to run, which that's also what he's known for, running the ball. So I think we really failed on that level. But again, at the end of the game, we made the huge defensive play to block that kick, and we came out with the win. So I can harp on them all I want. They're still a really good defense. Obviously, they made a few mistakes, and again, Jordan put them in a place where we threw a pick. They got to run it. We made some mistakes down the road. We had to punt. So I can't really blame them entirely, but I will say this was probably one of their worst games of the year.
Yeah, and definitely didn't play well. Defense, I'm not trying to harp on them a little. I want to keep it light and breezy. But I think defense could have had a lot of opportunities to play a lot better. I would like to see them play more aggressive against a team like that, especially a vulnerable team with a line that's kind of decaying, and we really didn't get a ton of pressure. We had a few, especially that last drive. We did have a couple sacks. Rashawn Gary finally getting in the mix a little bit. But Keyshawn Nixon's still a mess out there. It just seems like he's not picking up his head and looking where he needs to go. That's really kind of driving me nuts. But let's talk about that last play, the punt block, or the field goal block. A lot of Bears fans calling for illegal formation, getting over the center. Was there it? But there is also maybe a false start at the beginning of that drive to start things out and gain some momentum. So kind of an eye for an eye, I would say. But what a play. I mean, what a play. At the end of the day, to get it and to I give a lot of credit to Rich Bisaccia. I haven't given a lot of credit to him as well this season, but Bisaccia. Am I pronouncing that right? I think so. Anyways,
I'll say yes.
he called it. He said there was going to be a block at some point in the game from the Packers special teams because the low ball that is kicked off. I can't remember his name now. Santos foot. Tends to kick it very low and just over the center's head. And sure enough, we get big number 94 in there, get the bear paw up, and it got blocked. And now Bears fans, obviously you've seen the reaction video. That's some of the funniest stuff that you can watch, especially as a Packer fan. There's that one famous one of the little kid watching it. I believe he's just a brand new Bears fan. But I mean, it's got to be borderline child abuse putting your son in a Bears jersey before he can decide
Right.
to pick a team. I mean, my goodness. I mean, you're from Illinois, and you cheer for the Pack. Good, smart man, smart man.
Smart man. I had a smart father, so that's what I always say. My dad wouldn't let me growing up a loser, so he wanted me to grow up a winner.
But what do you think of that last play?
Honestly, I've looked at it a few times. I understand what they're saying, but if you look back at the video, and I think the rule that they were trying to push, or what I've seen they're trying to push, is that you're not allowed to touch the center until he brings his head up. If you watch the video, he never brings his head up. He keeps his head straight down in the dirt. So I mean, what do you want us to do about that? If he's not picking up his head, then
That's what
we're
I'm
gonna run
thinking.
right through him.
Yep,
And it's not like they made direct contact. They didn't like, rush him
it wasn't head to
directly. Now,
head.
did he get pushed into the center? Yeah, but that doesn't seem like it's the fault of the defensive guy. It seems like more like the guard that was right there pushing him in. So I don't really see it. I understand that, maybe it's a little against the rules, but again, how many times are we going to watch these football games and see missed calls? We see it all the time. As a matter of fact, just against with the Chiefs playing, they had a big third down. I think it was like 19 yards or maybe a little bit less than that, and the receiver dropped the ball. It obviously hit the dirt. The spectators saw it. The commentators even said it, and they got up on the ball. They had some time to think about it. They didn't rush and snap the ball because it was 4th and 3, and they got a penalty, and that's what took them back. So the fact that we're going to complain about missed calls, which I do complain about missed calls, but I also understand that there's there's a million things that refs are looking at. So if you want to nitpick the one play, go ahead and nitpick the one play. At the end of the day, the league isn't going to overturn this win, and you're not going to get one back on the board. So complain about it all you want
Yep,
because
that's
that's what
right.
you got
That's
to
my
do.
man, Carter.
Playing about it, think about it, dwell on it all
Yep,
night
do
because
it.
guess what?
Keep
Nothing's
tweeting
going
at
to
me about
change.
how it was a penalty and it didn't get called. I don't give a damn. It's
Go
not going to
ahead.
change my mind. I
Right.
totally agree. I didn't think anybody lined up right head to head with him. It looked like they were both off center. He did have time to get his head up. He didn't. He purposely, I think, kept his head down. And I mean, maybe you got to think he keeps his head down just because Santos' kick's going to be so low. But just skin it right over.
Maybe.
Take the hair off his chinny chin chin.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
nonetheless, I mean, it was just a good play call by the Packers special teams there, and good film study, I would say, on the special teams as well. Who obviously came up big, and when you get a special teams to kind of get the win, it feels a little different because it's not like offense defense. It's a mix of guys in there, and it's like well these guys did it, and it's usually the guys that don't get a lot of credit. So it's really nice to see them get the win there. But let's move forward here a little bit. We have been talking about that game quite a long time, but that's all right. We're here to talk. And the Packers, now they do have the 49ers this week, and I will be attending that game. So, ladies and gentlemen, you see me, give me a wave. Give me a wave. Spent pretty good money on the tickets. None of them coming cheap either because it is the 49ers in town. They've had our number for a number of games here, and I would like to get a win here this week. Carter, first, what are your thoughts on this 49ers game?
Uh, Two things. One, we're coming off a win that we clearly didn't, put our all into, and I hope that adds quite a bit of fuel to the fire. So I feel like we know that this team's been haunting us. The last 5, 6 years, they've just been haunting us. Every year we see them, and it's like seeing a ghost. It's horrible. Even I feel it. So I'm hoping that this win will be like, all right, guys, we scrape by this win. We cannot play like this next week and expect to win. So hope that lights a little bit of a fire. But on the opposite side of the board, the Seahawks, yes, just beat the 49ers in a pretty good fashion and really kind of put them on one. Now, was it a huge win? Only 2017, nothing crazy, but for the 49ers, it was quite hard to watch that game as a 49er. If I were to be a 49er fan, just the way that they were playing and with how many weapons and the amount of coaching staff and the amount of hype that they got behind them, for them to fall short like that a few times this season, it's quite concerning. So I am a little nervous that the 49ers are finally going to click it into space because they're over halfway through the season. They know that it now is almost time for go time, meaning like you can't lose from here on out. We got to start winning to, stay on top of the division. So I think the 49ers might come out very, very strong against us. I feel like our defense is going to have to weather the storm for the first two quarters. For sure, the first quarter, because they're going to come out swinging. And I think that they're going to end up trying to throw all over us. They're going to try and run. Christian McCaffrey's back, which he didn't look
He's
phenomenal in
not
that
this.
last
I don't
game, but
think he's got that
he
arthritis
doesn't
in
look
the meniscus. So I don't. That's going to be a reoccurring thing, because
right.
it's not a curable thing. So we'll see how that one works out. Obviously, stretching and everything can go into that. But yeah, McCaffrey could be a weapon, but he also could be a little disappointing given we do have cooler weather. Tightens the muscles up a little bit. You never know what's going to happen. So I remain optimistic for this one. But I'll let you finish here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I remain optimistic. I think we have the ability to beat the 49ers, especially with how they've been playing. Um, we just need to lock it in, to be 100% honest. We seem to just keep shooting ourselves in the foot. It doesn't seem like I'm ever blaming the opposite team for beating us or for,
No, you're never
making us
just
look
saying we
bad.
just simply got beat.
Right, it just seems like we keep just shooting ourselves in the foot. Like Jordan just slightly overthrowing,
Craft.
Tucker Craft for
Yep.
that pick was it was a
I
good
think
decision to make,
nine out
but
of
it
ten
just
times
was
he
a
makes
little
that.
bit. Right. And it just seems maybe even 9.9 times out of 10 he makes that. It just seems like, all right, we made one mistake, ended up costing us a lot. So I feel like we got this. I feel like this one is going to be a close game again. Um, but I will say that the 49ers have a lot of potential. They obviously got a lot of good players. They got a lot of good coaches over there that are smart and know what they're doing. And obviously, Matt LaFleur coming from the Kyle Shanahan tree, it seems like it's going to be another good game because it always is. But if we play anything like we did this week, I'm going to say the 49ers are going to roll us out of there. But if we play better and we don't shoot ourselves in the foot, I think we could get this one in the bag.
One thing I like about the Packers, they still have things they can work on. Red zone defense, we are 27th in the league. It's piss poor. Just looking at it, we convert 48.72% of the time, which is not very good. On the other hand, I believe San Fran is somewhere near. They are at the 66% mark. So that's a little bit better than we are, obviously. We're just under the 50 mark, but the teams behind us are really bad. It's Tennessee, New England, Pittsburgh, Dallas, and Newton Giants. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
32. Yep. I know you're counting with the
Not a good
fingers.
company.
Big
Not a
brains
good
always count
company
with
you want
big
to be with.
fingers, right?
Uh,
Yep.
I don't remember.
It's like the puppets on. Now I'm getting off track here, but one, I can only count to four. Two, I can only count to. Have you ever seen that
I think I have, yeah.
with the Count Dracula? Yeah, but
Oh, yeah.
somebody made like the Bodies Hit the Floor remake. One thing I would like to mention here is that we are good at keeping us above the other team's points per game. And we do average around 25 points per game. I think the 49ers are similar in that range, maybe a little bit less. So I'm hoping we can do that. And just running through some other stats here and something we talked about before the show. Something I would really like to see is maybe moving Van Ness over to the bench because he seemingly can't cause any real interior defense or issues on the defensive side of the ball. He seems like he's just a pretty face. But we talked about it, and what I would do is I would move Walker over to the edge, kind of float him like a Micah Parsons look, then have Wyatt Clark and Gary, to round out the four, and then on the linebacking core, I would put Cooper at mid linebacker because he's got a 66.8 PPF and he's doing really well. And he only played 71% of the snaps in last game. Now, Wilson, he's got a 78.9 PPF, which is even better, and he only played 29% of the snaps. And then finally, Wilson or McDuffie has a 57.3, and he played 8 PPF, and he played 18% of the snap. Another guy I'd like to see in that linebacking core because I think we do have to solidify that with Christian McCaffrey coming to town. Because if he gets a second level, you're going to want guys that can make tackles, and those are the kind of guys that make tackles. Quay played 100% of the snaps, and he's at 49.5. So I think if we use him maybe as an edge altering with Wyatt, I think that could give us a different look. Now, are they going to do that? No. But I would like to at least see the linebacking core rotated with some of those guys, including Cooper Wilson and McDuffie in there with Quay maybe taking a few reps off. But it's the thing that Quay played 100% of the snaps and just simply misplays. It just doesn't look good, and I'd really like to see what he can do because he is on that edge side. He is, as we talked about before the show, which you didn't even know, he's comparable size to Mr. Micah Parsons. He's actually taller at 6'4". Mike Parsons listed at 6'3". He's 4 pounds less. Mike Parsons listed at 245. Quay listed at 241. And so the other thing is with the San Fran team that I want to make sure our offense does is we take calculated risks. Now, what I mean by this is we had a situation where we were going for 2 in the one against the Bears. What play did we run there? We ran like an inside run. Like the box was totally stacked, and we gave it to Jacobs. He went to the left side. I don't even know what you'd call that, like a blast or something like that. Just something simple right up the middle. Or a lead. No, not even a lead because nobody's in front of him. And it was just out of the shotgun. Made 0 sense why we ran it. Where's the play creativity there? And then we also had another opportunity where we went for it on 4th down. We got stuffed. And we could have got a field goal, which I think we got to take points on the board when it's calculated. If we have a drive where it seems like we're kind of rolling and moving forward and progressing at a high rate, go for the 2, or go for on the 4th down. Now we are right at that 50% mark on the 4th down conversions, 4 of 8. So we're right at that 50% mark. I think Matt LaFleur has to take a little bit less of a chance at time, but also a little bit more. And I know that sounds like pretty bland, and but there has to be. He knows the situations. He knows what to do. It just seemed like last game we didn't really have a plan on our 4th down plays, and it
Right.
was like, what the are we doing? Like what the? And it was just, I mean, what was your thoughts on those couple 4th down conversion efforts that didn't go so well?
Yeah, it just seemed like I don't know if he checked out. I'm talking about the 2 point
Two
conversion.
point
I don't
conversion.
know if
Yeah, I
he
know it said
checked
fourth
out of
down.
a pass. Oh yeah, but it's still we were right there on the goal line, and I don't know if he checked out of the play and then checked to that, but I mean we have such like you said such a creative offense. We have such creative playmakers. You telling me we couldn't come up with anything cutesy with Jaden Reed, or we couldn't have, Tucker Craft leak out, when we fake a run to the right and then have him naked bootleg to the left and just give him a little dink. I feel like we really fell short on that part. And again, I feel like the whole game almost felt like that. Like we were just struggling to get a rhythm, and we were struggling to use the plays that we were super, maybe not confident in, but we know work. They're just a little obviously cutesy and stuff. Seemed like we tried to go back to some real bread and butter plays, and
It
obviously the
was just
Bears,
stupid. Yeah.
right? They know all about bread and butter, or
Yeah.
our bread and butter, so they knew what they were doing, and like I said, they stacked the box. That 4th down that you were talking about, or you mentioned right there near the goal line, just didn't seem like we just didn't have it. And I know Jordan reached out for the ball and tried to score, and like we didn't have anybody open. It seemed like we just picked a play to pick a play. It didn't seem like there was a real good game plan behind that. And back to your point about Matt LaFleur taking some risks, you are right. He does take quite a bit of calculated risks. That would have been one where I'd like to see Jordan stay in the pocket and just try and deliver a throw or run it up the middle. Obviously, I know he got ran out to the side, but that just comes with putting Josh Jacobs or one of our other running backs in to protect, and then obviously setting the protection to the correct side on Jordan's part and just keeping him in the pocket because it's not like he did get flushed quite a few times, and their pass rush was actually quite good this game, in the sense that they were pressuring him and getting him to move quite a bit. Obviously, the sacks didn't really come with it, but they got him out of the pocket and got him uncomfortable. I just would have liked to see him or us dial up a play that requires him to sit there and make a decision and throw it to the open guy, as opposed to what it looked like. It looked like he had an option one and maybe a fail safe instead of having four options out there. So kind of, upset me a little bit watching those plays, but um, we've made plenty of those plays in the past, and we made those decisions in the past. Seems like this game just wasn't the one where everything was clicking. But I would like to see us, go for it because the Bears went for it quite a few times and they got it quite a few times, and it ended up being huge momentum boost for them, kept them on the field. We didn't have any of those opportunities, and we just didn't really go for it when we did. So I would like to see obviously a few different things called, but what am I going to do? I'm not a coach.
Well, we are talking heads here, Carter. So hopefully they tune into the Beer Meat and Cheese podcast, where you coach Matt LaFleur's opinions on us.
Yeah, take my advice.
Yep, we'll say Carter Decker from Green Bay, Wisconsin called that play, and we will take it. But one thing I want to note here before we kind of move on, San Fran has struggles closing out of games, and they've proven it multiple times now. They have 5 losses on the season. The first one coming from Minnesota. Minnesota scored early on the board. That wasn't a final closeout game. They just kind of led them the whole time. Now they did lose to the Rams because they couldn't close out. They lost to the Cardinals because they couldn't close out. The Cardinals, I believe, came back from a 10-point deficit. Now the Chiefs came from 14 points, and then finally the Seahawks just finished them off here this past weekend with the late touchdown as well. And it seems like if we are second half offense, I'm going to admit it. We play a lot better in our second half. So if we do have an opportunity to win this one, I got a feeling it's going to come down into the second half. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a real comfortable win, I don't think. But let's do a score prediction here, and let's move on a little bit as we talk through the show.
Obviously, I'm going to take the Packers winning. I think we have the opportunity. I think the 49ers are a little bit beat at the moment. However, with the way that we've been playing offense and defensively, don't think that we're going to be able to put up a ton of points. So I'm probably going to go with another low-scoring game for us, and I think if we do beat them, it's only going to be by a field goal. So kind of close to what this week was and what I predicted last week. I think it's going to be probably close to actually what their final game was, 21 to like 17 or 20 to 17, something like that. I don't think it's going to be a huge scoring affair. Um, However, we could win this game. I think we have the opportunity. I think we got the players, and I think we have the coaching staff and the mindset to do it. We just need to keep our foot on the gas and really just make sure that we don't make those huge, huge errors. We need to run the ball. We need to make sure that we're passing it low and slow. Doesn't have to be super high flying, daring catches, into double coverage. Doesn't have to be like that. We can work with this team. And obviously the 49ers defense is quite great. Um, in terms of just they've got plenty of players on the side. Now, have they been playing up to their standard? No, but they can turn it on any game. So I think it's going to be a close one. I'm going to go 21-17.
I'm going to go similar route, close game. I think Love has his first clean game. I think he doesn't now knock on wood. Dun dun dun. Yep, there you go. Thank you, Carter. No interceptions. I'm gonna say it right now. I don't think he throws an interception this week. I think he finally figures out. I think obviously I've seen the plays. I've watched actually a lot of film on it. There's a lot of open guys in those undercutting routes. We don't always have to go for those deep balls. And I sent you a video where I highlighted where the guy Tucker Kraft's going, ran right out to the flat. And I think if he can find those receivers and make those plays, he has a perfectly clean game. Packers get the dub. They're winning 24-21 over the 49ers. And I think it's going to be, I don't think we're going to lead at half. That's my one step. I think the 49ers are going to lead at half. I think it'll be like 14-10. And then finally the Packers score 2 touchdowns on the backside. And then it makes it the 24-21 or whatever I said. I can't even think. Yeah, 24-21. And Packers do get the win here. And I think this is long overdue for the team. I mean, I know it's been kind of a hanging cloud over our head now. It's not quite the Bears, Packers, ownership. We only see the 49ers maybe once a season, and it's usually around playoff time. But I think Jordan Love kind of turns the tables on this one. I think he kind of ends it for us. I know he did lose last year, but I think he finally makes a statement game here at home. And what better place to do it? I'll be there. I'll be loud. I'll be proud, and I'll be, maybe not so nice to some 49ers fans if they're going to be in the holy grounds of football. But I promise if you do listen to the Beer Meat and Cheese podcast, I'll be nicer to you. And also, just making friends, trying to and I talked to it about actually. I don't know if you know. I think his Matt Rampage or something. He does like a show. I can't remember what his name is. But anyways, he's talking about how he was at the Bears game and he was trash talking Bears fans. And I'm like, yeah, we need to get back into that more hostile fan base environment. I'm like, I'm so sick of the come and have come and have a cocktail with us, and no, we got to take Lambeau's pride back, and we got to make sure other teams know it. Now, speaking of other teams, we do move on to the Vikings here. The Vikings taking down the Titans, winning 23-13. And Sam Darnold, 20 of 32, 246 yards, 2 TDs. Will Levis, is 17 to 31, 295 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. Jones on the ground, 15 carries, 39 yards. Levis was actually the leading rusher in this one for the Titans, which is really bad. And then Jefferson had 6 catches, 81 yards. And then Westbrook Akinney had 2 catches, 117 yards, and 1 TD. Now, the Vikings do look to take on the Chicago Bears actually this weekend, and I believe it is in Chicago. And so, obviously the Vikings still winning, but I really do think they are going to fall off. Now, they did have the Titans here this week, and I just have it's that weird feeling like that grandfathered feeling that you're like, it's going to happen, but you're just waiting for that clock to strike zero. And first, let's talk about what did you think of the game for the Vikings and Titans, and then we'll move to that Vikings Bears games.
Now, obviously, they played well. They weren't playing a great team. The Titans aren't the
Titans are
most
so cheeks,
fantastic
dude.
team in the world.
It's
I
so
know they're not bottom of the league, but they're
they're
really
really
fighting to
close.
get
They're
there.
really close.
Again, not hating on any Titans fans. Again, every team in the league has
Hey,
had
I got
some
more respect
opportunities,
for them if
but
they can still cheer them on. Even when you got the Vols, I'd rather just watch the Vols on Saturday, and then forget Sunday. Just have fun in Nashville or something.
just take the day off and go to sleep. I don't know, take a big nap during the game time. But obviously the Vikings are playing pretty well. Their defense is playing really well. Um, I mean, I hate to say it, but they played a good game, and they didn't play a great team, but they played a good game, and they got the ball downfield. They ran the ball decently. Their special teams weren't anything great, but they weren't bad either. So it seems like they played a fairly, I wouldn't say complete game because obviously they made plenty of mistakes on their side, the pick, stuff like that. But they played fairly well. I'd say they played like 70% of what they could do. Obviously, the Titans aren't the greatest team in the world, so they're not going to put up too much of a fight. So they obviously knew that going into the game. It wasn't like they were going in and they were going to face, the hardest team in the league. So I think they had some confidence going in there, and that was fairly close to what I think our predictions were. I actually think I predicted the score to be a little higher for the Vikings, but um, next week they take on the Bears, and what I'll say about
The
that is,
Bears.
the Bears. Obviously the Bears lost this week. Go Petco. But they played really well. They played well, more, excuse me, they played better than they had in the past few weeks, and they actually ended up turning up pretty well on defense. So I think that it's actually going to be a fairly good game between the Vikings and the Bears. Obviously the Bears have got a taste of a little division loss, and they're going to have a little sour taste in their mouth from that. So I'm hoping they take it out on the Vikings. I'm actually
Yes.
going to predict I'm actually going to predict the Bears winning this game. Now, I'm taking the underdogs solely because I really want them to win. And that's weird to say, but obviously they're not going to have too much of a run at the division, and the Vikings are making their name pretty out there. So, I think the Bears are actually going to take this one. I think that if the Bears roll like they have been, and um, they're able to get Caleb Williams out of the pocket. Obviously the Vikings play a really, prevent defense. They don't play a lot of man. They're playing a lot of zone. They're back off the ball, and they want to make you make decisions. I think the Bears could use that to their advantage. They could definitely get Caleb Williams out there. They could definitely dink and dunk down the field, just dunk 4 or 5 yards off, and really just lull them to sleep before they start taking big shots to like Keenan or Deion or excuse me, uh, more. So I would like to see the Vikings fall to the Bears. So I'm going to take the Bears, and I'm going to take the score prediction. Probably the Bears aren't going to put up a ton of points, but if they don't put up a ton of points, neither can the Vikings. So I'm going to say 14 for the Vikings and 17 for the Bears. It's going to be a fairly close game. It's going to be a defensive game, that's for sure. But it's going to come down to who can kick the ball better. And obviously, Cairo Santos is going to be on the hot seat this week, having that last field goal blocked. And I'm hoping that they work on it. Um, Obviously we put on some good tape for against their team, and we almost blocked the first kick that they had as well. So I would like to see him clean that up, and if they do, they could come out with a win. Vikings just got to shoot themselves in the foot once or twice. I think that'll be night night for them.
And I said this last week. I think the Vikings are actually on the downside of the roller coaster, the big hump. Now, obviously, not a lot. Gut feeling again. Just something that I'm going off of. And yes, I'm a Packers fan. Little biased, but that's all right. You're listening to this podcast anyways. And if you made it this far, thank you. We do appreciate you. But I just think the Vikings. I don't know. I mean, they've been playing out of their mind. Sam Darnold's been playing out of his mind. Bears are a good team for turnovers. They do have a good defense. I think Darnold does throw two picks. That's gonna be my bold prediction in this one. He's gonna have two picks in this contest, and the Bears. I'm gonna actually side with the Bears too. I don't know why, but I feel like the Bears are gonna get this win. Um, and it's going to be similar to what you said, but I'm going to go probably in the ballpark of 21-17 in favor of the Bears. Bears do have it at home. Now, hopefully, their fans do show up, given, Packers can take over the stadium at Soldier Field. Don't know if Minnesota's going to do the same thing, but we'll see. And I just think if there's an opportunity to spoil a team, it's going to be the Vikings. I think they're next on the chopping block. I really don't think the Packers are. We just haven't found our gear yet, and that's simply like when you're. Have you ever rode a mountain bike and you're trying to shift gears and it's just not clicking in? That's where we're at right now. It's just not clicking in. And we keep pedaling, pedaling, pedaling. We're still going up that hill. And once we find that gear, we're going to start, chugging like the Polar Express going up that ice mountain or whatever it was. And then going across that lake. We're going to get going. So I really do see a lot of hope for that team. But I'm going to go, 21-17 in favor of the Bears. Let's go Bears. Come on, guys. So you guys can do this. This is just the Vikings. Um,
Come on, you lost to us. Go beat another division rival.
Yeah, just
Go
take it
take
out.
it from the
Take that
Vikings. Come
anger
on.
and fester it up and be like,
There you
these
go.
damn teams that keep beating us, I'm sick of it. And just slam the paw down and get after it. But let's move on. Look at the Lions. Of course, the Lions, they did win again. Yuck. Running up the score, Dan Campbell 52-6 because he can't pull a starter for whatever reason. But yeah, Goofy, he was 24, 29, 412 yards, 4 TDs. Really impressive stats, actually, if I'm looking at it unbiasedly. But I also think they like to run up stats. Their fan base is more like hyenas, as when you say anything bad about them, you're going to get about six of them back barking at you. And then Mac Jones, you suck. 17 to 29, 138 yards, one interception. I mean, come on, Mac Jones. He was a first round pick, right? I mean, yes, he wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to be, but he's the Alabama prodigy coming out. I think that was one of Saban's last few years. It was probably 2 years back because I think he had a couple others.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been 2 years back. You're a Saban guy. I know you did play with them, but come on, let's put it together here. Let's get something going. And then Montgomery on the ground, 15 carries, 75 yards, 2 TDs. ATN, 12 carries, 27 yards. You really look like cheeks, bro. 12 carries, 27 yards. You're just over 2 yards a carry off the top of my head. Come on, Clemson represent. Let's go. And then finally, St. Brown, he had 11 catches, 161 yards, 2 TDs. Thomas Jr.'s 5 catches, 82 yards. Don't even know where you attended school, so I can't make too many jokes about that. But anyways, what were your thoughts on that game?
Obviously, 6 points is not going to cut it when you're playing the Lions and kicking only field goals. I believe it was two field goals, right? They never
Yep,
even
it
got
was
close
two
to the
field
end zone,
goals.
right? Yep. So obviously that's not how you're going to win games, and it's not going to sustain anything. And like you said, Mac Jones, come on, you're former first round pick. You've been on the big stage before. You've been up there in New York, and you obviously you just, or excuse me,
He was
not New
in New
York,
England.
Boston. New England, yeah, that's what I was going for. But it's like, all right, you came down, you knew you were going to be the backup. He gets hurt, you get in. It's time for you to shine. It's time for you to go and go play hard. And clearly that didn't
In
happen. And then of
138
course,
yards, I could have thrown for
yeah, come
138
on,
yards. Like, come on.
ah, come on, man. You've been preparing for this. You played
Yeah,
last week. Come on.
he played at
But yeah,
Alabama with some of the most competitive. That was a time when Georgia was winning the national championship. So he's playing Georgia once a
right,
year. Those are some really big guys. Like, come on, find a way to get some points on the board. Jesus, we needed you.
right. And then you got, like you said, Dan Campbell just running up the score. He's not taking no for an answer. He's gonna go keep going and going and going and going. Um, And I remember they were playing it on one of the half times that I was watching. It was like the fastest 3 minutes for one of the commentators, and they were like quadruple speeding through all of the touchdowns that they scored, the Lions scored, and it still took like a minute to go through. So it's like, all right, come on, Jaguars, you guys couldn't do anything, and then once they hit like after the first quarter, they just seemed like they gave up and just did nothing, didn't play any defense, didn't even try. They just got ran through, and doesn't seem like anyone down there in the Jaguars right now really wants to be there.
Doug's got to go.
Um, yeah, and it seems like there's going to be some really big power shifts. I mean, let's put it this way: they are actually at the bottom of the league, and they're doing horrible, and they're not making any decisions whatsoever. They've actually just retained every single player they have. They haven't released anybody. And then you got the Jets, who
We're gonna
obviously
talk
are
about
having a
that. Yeah,
great
let's.
season, but like they're making huge moves. With like you said, we'll talk about later. But like they're making huge moves, and yeah, obviously it's not making a huge difference for them. But Jaguars are just like, okay, we're just gonna keep going down, and we're not
Yeah,
gonna do
just
anything
it's
to
just
right
like
the
a
ship.
plane that lost its engine. Just keeps on going down.
It's gonna slowly but surely, we're just gonna let this one ride out, and hopefully get the number one pick next year. Is really what it feels like.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing about it is, I know the Lions, 52-6, but I'm still not intimidated by them. I don't know why. I mean, yes, they put up big numbers against, shittier teams. But it's the line. I feel like it's the Cowboys last year. Remember the Cowboys? They had the home record. They didn't lose anything, and they were always winning by huge chunks of numbers. And they looked like the greatest team on turf. And then first round of the playoffs, Packers come in, they take them out. I remember, and I talked about this last or the other week. It was like the first time I met you, and I'm like, "Hey, man, what do you think of the Cowboys?" And you're like, "Oh no, the Cowboys got our number." And I'm like, "Okay, we'll see." And then,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm always
What
gonna hold.
happened? I was definitely nervous for that game, and I remember that conversation, and I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
remember
yeah,
that
I
too,
think
and
we're gonna get walked out
yeah,
of the dome, and then we went in there and we actually walked them out the dome.
yeah,
So yeah, I will say I was really wrong about that
yeah,
game.
I remember coming back that like Monday, and being like, "Yep, good call, buddy, good call. You picked that one." And yeah, but they got the Colts next. I think another win for them. But again, Lions fans, not intimidated by you guys, not at all. But I think they do have the Colts next. I think you guys are dirty though, little dirty, little dirty. But I say that urinal blue hides the dirt. Kirby Joseph, you dirty dog. But anyways, I think they do get the win against the Colts. Probably going to be like 34-7 or something stupid like that because he's going to run it up. Colts obviously having more issues than they know what to deal with. I mean, Flacco came in. Now is it Richardson's time again, or is it back to Flacco? Who are they going to start? Who are they going to sit? Is Jonathan Taylor going to have to get 120 carries and hopefully get 3 yards a carry, get 100, you know. But we'll see what happens there. But what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I actually, unfortunately, I do think the Lions are gonna walk out of the stadium with a win. Like you said, there's just been a lot of maybe not controversy, but just a lot of like uncertainty when it comes to the quarterback spot. And there's been a lot of uncertainty when it comes to Anthony Richardson
But
in
when you
New
walk
England.
out on a drive and sub yourself out, I mean, you got to bench you.
Right. And unfortunately, that's a bad look. Do I understand why he did it? Yeah, because if I felt like I couldn't do my job, I'd want someone else in there to make sure that our team is successful. 'Cause it's bigger than just me and my pride. However, I would also make up some BS about it and be like,
Yeah, I would say a
oh,
twist in an
my
ankle.
ankle
Yep.
or my calf, it's tight. Like people do that to fake injuries so they can pause the game and not get charged a timeout or lose some time, stuff like that. Come on, man. You couldn't come up with anything in the time. I understand your honesty. I get it. But come on, man. You're a starting quarterback. Say that your calf cramped and you couldn't get the ball. But I think that obviously with all of those controversial things going on, and there's just a lot of, no one really understands what the direction they're going. And Anthony Richardson himself, he's got one drive where he's looking like absolute dog water and he's giving up the ball or fumbling it or not hitting the target at all. And then he's got the next drive where he looks like what everyone's hyped him up to be. He runs it for 13 yards. He makes a huge first down pass. He goes in there and he bowls over a defender to take the win against the Jets. It's like, okay, that's the Anthony Richardson that everyone wants.
But
But
it's not what you
unfortunately,
get.
Right, you only get that Anthony Richardson every 3 or 4 drives, and then the other 3 drives, it's like, okay, this kid's like not
He's
really
checked out.
doing a
Yep.
job. He's checking out the game. So it's like, okay, kind of hard to beat the Lions when you have that sort of inconsistency on your side of the ball. And obviously the Lions got a great offense, and the Colts don't have the best defense in the world. They're not bad, but they're not great. I have a feeling, unfortunately, the Lions are going to walk out with this one. Colts probably aren't going to put up too many points. I do foresee at least one switch in quarterback. I don't know if that's halfway through the game or in third quarter if they're getting whomped. I do think that they make a change. I think whoever starts probably won't finish the game. Um, that'd be my bold take, and I think that the score is actually probably going to be a little bit higher than 34. I imagine the Colts put up 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown on the first or second drive to think that they got a chance, and then 1 touchdown in garbage time where they're like, okay, we're getting whomped. Their defense really isn't playing well. We're going to go down and score. So I'm going to say it's 14 points for the Colts, and that the Lions are probably going to come out with 42 points. Like I said, Dan Campbell's been running up that score. He doesn't really care. He doesn't want to pull his starters. That's fine by me because someone's eventually going to get hurt on their side of the ball, and it's going to
Get
be
tired.
detrimental. So,
Attrition.
right, attrition. So, I think the Lions are going to walk out, unfortunately, but I think that there's going to be some issues at the end of the game, whether that's injuries or whether that's fatigue setting in. Because after that, they got another game where they're playing the Bears, and again, it's the Bears. But if the Bears roll off a Vikings win, they're going to have all the time in the world to think about
Yep.
the Lions, and they're going to want their number. And if they can come out with the win against the Vikings, they're going to have quite a bit of momentum rolling into the Lions because they got nothing to lose at that point.
We're
They
banking
beat
on the
the
Bears,
Vikings.
baby. Banking on the Bears now.
Yeah. Now that we beat them, now they're going to beat everybody else in the division.
Yeah,
But
we're banking on them.
um, I think the Lions are going to end up winning this one, unfortunately.
Yep. And let's move on to NFL news here. Just to make things fun at the end of the show, Jets still suck again. They're back to sucking again, and they obviously Joe Douglas now today news he was fired from the organization, and again chaos continues to roll there. But Rodgers is his reputation being ruined by being with the Jets?
I don't know if it's because he's with the Jets or just because he's doing it to himself. It seems like he really hasn't. I mean, if you watch some of like the lowlights for the Jets, he's throwing balls behind receivers. He doesn't
Yep,
look
he
like
looks
he's on
really bad. I
time.
mean, it's like
He
like watching an old guy lost in the park. I mean, it's just bad.
it looks like it almost looks like he is playing at the start of a season, like it's game one of the season, and he didn't attend mini camp, he didn't attend training camp, he didn't do anything. He held out the entire summer and then didn't start until that game. That's what it looks like to me, because it doesn't look like Aaron Rodgers. I've obviously we've seen
Yep,
the
we've seen
best
the
and the
best of him.
brightest of Aaron Rodgers, and it's just not him. Unfortunately, he's doesn't look great, and he keeps going on social media and obviously he's a big name, so he's a big face. So every time he says something, it's twisted, 10 ways from Sunday. But then you have him at the center of everything,
He's simply
and
not
you
doing
just
it.
have coaches just dropping left and right, going away, and players, and you are getting players to come in and this and that. And it seems like all that he's doing is just taking the attention off of football. They're not. It doesn't look like they're going in the lab and really trying to put together a winning team. And last week when he said something along the lines of like, "Hey, obviously this doesn't really." Obviously, I'm not quoting him because it's not what he said, but he alluded
Paraphrasing.
to almost saying like, "This season doesn't really look up for us. We might be looking on to the next season." That's what everyone's kind of taking
Yeah, he
away
talked
from
about
what he
playing for
said.
pride.
Right. And it's like, okay, well, you guys don't really have any pride. You just lost to the Colts by a kick or a point, I'm sorry, 28 to 27. And he just didn't play good. No one played good. You threw bad passes, you made bad decisions. Obviously, a few of them were good, but you let Indiana, a pretty mid-tier team, come into the Jets territory and just walk them out. Obviously, it was a close game, but it didn't feel like that. If you go back and watch the game, it didn't feel like a close game. It felt like the entire time the Jets were on their back foot, and every time they threw the ball, it was like, okay, this one going to hit the dirt or they're going to get intercepted. It never felt like the option was to catch the ball and get yards. So I don't think that his reputation is being ruined by him being with the Jets, I think he's ruining his own reputation through his play, through the comments he's
Yep.
making, and through all the decisions that have been made around him. Obviously, he doesn't have full control over getting Devontae Adams or getting rid of Robert Saleh or Joe, the offensive
Joe
coordinator.
Douglas
There
or
you go, Joe
GM.
Douglas. Yeah, GM. I'm sorry. You know what I was getting at.
Yep, 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 yep. You were just a little
Obviously, he
mixed
doesn't
up.
have a huge
There's a lot of
say.
guys leaving that organization.
Right, and it seems like that is just coming back to him. Now, obviously, it's not his direct thought or direct option to do that, but everything leads back to him, and it's not a good image for him. And I've seen a lot. I've actually seen quite a bit on my timeline of places where he could go next year. A lot of people are thinking that he's going to get traded and just sent out somewhere else. As a matter of fact, someone said that really controversial, but it was actually a Packers account that was saying that we're actually closer to Aaron Rodgers going to Minnesota than he's not, just because of the fact that Sam Darnold doesn't really have a huge contract and he's going to be claiming for one. Obviously, not Mike McCarthy. Um, McCarthy, their quarterback, is hurt this year, and he's going to have to start next year, still being a freshman, even though he's had a year in the league. And it almost be a decent spot for him because he get a 1 year contract, all out for a little bit against his former teammates, and then of course just prepare the next kid to step up to the plate. Obviously, that I don't think that's going to happen, but I saw that pitch idea and I was like, okay, kind of crazy, kind of out there, but it's crazy that people are already considering that option. And it's sad to think that his play going from, almost godlike, adored
Oh
by
yeah, it
fans
was
in
it
Green
was
Bay.
fantastic in Green Bay.
Everyone in Green Bay thought he could do no wrong, including myself. Every
Yep,
time
I was on
a
the same
player
page.
dropped the ball
Yep,
or a ball was
it
missed,
was somebody
I was
else's fault.
like receiver, what are you doing? Why didn't you take another step out
Yeah,
to the
yep.
outside than the inside? Which obviously, looking back on it, most likely Aaron Rodgers' fault. But now it seems like he's getting super, super exposed for that, and it's just not a good look.
And the other thing I always think of the movie Get Hard when Will Ferrell's in training for prison, and all the fingers are pointing to Martin. That's Rogers right now, and I feel like he's the problem. Yes, I know he's not associated with all the moves, but he's definitely a big factor in that. Now, some other news here in the NFL: the Cowboys officially no fun to make fun of anymore. They look really, really bad. McCarthy's likely got to go, but also Jerry Jones. You got to think he's got to go.
Yeah, and I don't even know if they have the power to do that to kick Jerry Jones
Well,
out of
I
the
think his
field, but
children do
that would
because
be interesting.
they can because I was talking or hearing today that his son can technically take over because it's in an agreement or something at a said time when like he's aging, it can take over the business. And I mean, if his son does that, that's gonna be a total power move, and more credit to him, because taking the old man's throne. I always used to call him like Emperor Palpatine. He basically sits there, and they always show him on camera when they're scoring or when it's really bad. So it's either
He's
the
just like,
yep, and he just sits there like usually chatting with somebody with like six water bottles around him, and then he's
yeah,
like sitting there chatting. I mean, I don't think he's ever gonna die. I think he's got like a horse's heart waiting for him. When his heart goes, he'll get that implant, and he'll be 116 and I'll be like 56, and I'll have a heart attack before he does. Anyways, but yeah, I think his actually children can take over representation of the team. Now, are they going to do that? Probably not. Pop's kind of built everything up. He probably gained all the money for them and everything else, but would be an interesting move.
yeah, and I think you used this analogy a little bit earlier. It's almost like watching your grandpa out there. They're not really fun to make fun of because you almost feel bad for them.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
do.
like, okay, Dak goes down. Not that Dak was doing great this year, but it's like, all right, that's a very clear blow. You got CeeDee Lamb false starting, off sides, not doing his job, not catching the ball, running the run. Like, okay, he's not
It's just
all
a
in it.
mess.
He's not
Micah
looking great. You got
Parsons
Cooper
pissed on
Rush
the
back there.
sideline.
Micah Parsons throwing his helmet, getting upset, making the faces and everything, which again, I understand, but I've never had 150 cameras on me, so you got to kind of lock it in there. Cooper Rush just trying his best to go out there and do something, and he threw over 50 passes,
Just
which is
miserable.
utterly insane,
It's
and just
miserable.
didn't complete a ton of them. And it's like, okay, they have no running game. They don't trust their running game. They don't have any passing
The
game
running
anymore
game would have
because
looked good in 2016.
right, and Ezekiel Elliott is like
Yeah,
a
he's ancient. He
shell
looks
of a
slower
shell of
with the
himself.
15 on than he did with what he wore in New England. I think that was he. It just looks slow.
Right, and you're right. It's not fun to make fun of anymore because I have a coworker that I work with now, and she's actually a Cowboys fan. And I said it the last few weeks, and then the last like 2 weeks, I've been like, okay, I'm just not even gonna
Yeah,
say
just back
anything. I'm
off
like, what do
now.
you?
It's
It's
like it's
rude.
starting to
At
get
this
to
point, it's
bullying.
rude.
It's getting to
Right.
bullying at this point, and probably a
Right. It's
workplace.
no longer that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like good
exchange.
back and forth like, oh, I'm a Packer fan, you're a Cowboys fan, we hate each other. Now it's like, oh, I'm
I'm just
sorry,
hate
your
talking to
dog
you.
got shot again.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. It's every time the Cowboys lose, it's like they're taking your grandma out back and showing her the what
easy.
is it, the
He's
mice or
showing the
whatever.
horse the
So it's like,
backside of the
oh,
barn.
horse. There you go. It's like, okay, like, all right, like, come on, guys, we got to do something. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot as well. Like I said about the Jaguars, the Cowboys at this point are like, okay, we're
Basically the same,
starting quarterbacks down,
just with a lot
our
more talent.
defense isn't playing well. We're just gonna we're just coasting down to from here and see what happens. So it's sad to see, but you know what? Oh,
Oh,
it's sad to see, but also it is kind of fun to see silently as a Packer fan to watch the Cowboys kind of go through this turmoil when Aaron left. Everyone, everyone, including all the Cowboys fans, including the Bears fans, the Vikings, Lions, everyone that doesn't like us, 49ers fans, they're all saying, "Welcome to mediocrity. Welcome to this. Welcome to that. You guys are going to be terrible from here
still
on
ain't
out. You guys
there.
aren't going to do
Still
anything."
ain't there.
Guess what? Other than the Lions utterly running our division right now and just doing a really good job, Vikings are doing all right. The Bears are in the garbage dump. The Cowboys are in the garbage dump. The 49ers got 5 losses on the year. It's like, okay,
We're right
who's
there.
really
We're
bad?
right
The
there. We're
Jets
right at
are
the top. Yep.
tanked. It's like, okay, all of you guys were pretty much wrong, other than the Lions, because they obviously are only on the up from here. But it's like, okay, everyone else has pretty much been wrong. Everyone doubted us, and now look at us. So
Yeah.
it's not fun to make fun of the Cowboys anymore, but it's like, okay, this is what you guys thought was gonna happen. It didn't happen, and now we're out here, blowing you guys out of the water. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
look at us now, indeed. But I do think Cowboys, when they are good, football is a little more fun, just because the Cowboys are such a big brand and a big team. Nonetheless, it is good to see that Jerry's World's struggling a little bit, and 49ers struggling a little bit, Bears struggling a little bit. Everybody's struggling a little bit. Besides, I mean, Packers are struggling, but we're still making wins, and that's always good to see. Now, I'm going to close things up here as we do just about hit over an hour on the podcast this week. I mean, we had a great show, I think, again, and really a lot of fun, a lot of things to talk about. Now, I'm hoping to have double shows next week, ladies and gentlemen, just because we do have that real quick, or actually, excuse me, it's just going to be Miami, and then we had that Miami game on Thanksgiving. I'm also going to that game as well, which will be really fun. But we do have a lot of fun content coming up for you guys. Be sure to listen in on YouTube and Spotify and give us a watch. And if you'd like, be sure to tweet at us. Carter and I can handle it. If it's real nasty, we're just going to ignore it. No big deal. That's usually what I do. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in and enjoying the show, hopefully, and, just coming up with great creative stuff. I mean, we got tons to talk about and tons more to talk about. I'm sure we're just going to unload after the 49ers game and then the Miami game. We're going to kind of have a quick turnaround on both of them. But signing off for Carter Decker, I'm Johnny Samp for the Beer, Meat, and Cheese podcast on ESPN Sports. We wish you all a great night and a great week. Go Pack, go, F the Bears, and F everybody, Lions, whatever, Minnesota as well, and San Fran. We'll see you next time, though, and we hope you all have a good week.